Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. It is T20 World Cup season and the semi-finals are upon us. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ, who has just spent a rollicking couple of weeks around Australia. You've watched the latest India-Bangladesh game. You're now, I think, in India on your way home back to the UK. And so, DJ, how are you feeling, man? It's kind of crazy. You go through, 42 matches I think have happened. Semi-finals are upon us, and that's it. Two more games, and we'll have a champion.
Yeah, it was great. I am, as you said, in India on my way back to the UK. I'm going to be in India for a week doing some stuff. At the moment, when you asked how I felt, I think firstly exhausted, a bit jet
Jet
lagged.
lagged.
Australia is really far, man.
It's
Like
far
you
for
don't
you.
realize
Imagine
it,
if I
even
had
from
gone,
India.
right? Anyway, it is far. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good. So the three games I went to watch were India, Pakistan, epic. India Netherlands, decent game, and then India Bangladesh, which turned out to be. I mean, having sat through India Pakistan, we were all like, well, I don't know, is this going to be? Are we ever going to enjoy a cricket game in a ground ever again? Are we ever going to get excited about something like that ever again? And lo and behold, Team India managed to conspire to make us sweat. Almost got themselves knocked out due to rain, and yeah, it was pretty exciting. We were screaming in the stands again.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm
so
sure
I'm
we'll
I'm
talk
going to
all
come
about
to you,
that.
and I want to double click on that game a little bit, just to go through what happened last week, right? When we were last with you all, South Africa had when Varun and I were last with you all, South Africa had just beaten India, and so both groups basically had at least four teams still alive, if not all five at that point. Australia beat Ireland to keep their hopes alive still, which was not a huge surprise. Sri Lanka beat Afghanistan, which it has been a disappointing World Cup for Afghanistan. Now you can look back and say they got 2 points because of two rained out matches, but Sri Lanka kept themselves alive. England then beat New Zealand, which was really interesting, which was very critical for the English team to be able to keep their hopes alive and have a shot at semi-final qualifications, which we know obviously since they have done. And that was Joss Butler finally finding his form and bringing some heroics to the party. Then we can keep going. And on the first of the double header that you saw, I don't know if you actually watched it, but Zimbabwe played Netherlands, and then Dutch won by 5 wickets, and actually, just showed that they're here to stay. And by the way, we're sitting here, if I'm not mistaken, the Dutch have just cemented their qualification for the 2024 World Cup because the top 8 teams have qualified, and by beating by beating South Africa, the Netherlands has sealed their spot. So congratulations to them. DJ, did you watch both games or was it just the India Bangladesh one?
So I watched both games. We got there early because obviously, we've been doing some reels and stuff on Instagram, so we had to be there early to do that, which was fun. Yeah, it was a great game. The Netherlands, I was almost tempted to say this is their greatest win in T20 cricket over Zimbabwe, but then I remember they'd beaten England with Stuart Broad, that overthrow, right? In the 2009 version. And I mean, that was obviously overshadowed again with what happened today. But you know what? The top scorer for the Netherlands team, he's actually
Max
been on this
O'Dowd.
podcast.
He's a good friend of the podcast. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great win. It was a nice game. I think there was one moment in that game where there was a catch and one of the Zimbabwean fielders parried it over the boundary and his trousers came off as well. So that's pretty funny. I don't know. But yeah,
Let's talk
yeah,
about the
good game, good
second
win.
match of the doubleheader then, DJ. Like India playing Bangladesh. Slightly rainy conditions. There wasn't a lot of rain around while the match happened. So India bats first at the Adelaide Oval. And a couple of things to talk about, right? Puts up 184. Surya Kumar Yadav, who, by the way, after today's game, I'm not sure we've been getting his name right. I'm not sure if it's actually Surya Kumar Yadav or he's Superman Kumar Yadav. Like, just just unbelievable, just unbelievable. But and Virat Kohli scored 64 out of 44 balls, which I'm now very excited to say is not really newsworthy anymore. We're back to the point where a Virat 50 is quote unquote par for the course, which I'm super excited about. Let's talk about KL Rahul, right? We got it's interesting to listen in hindsight, and I think there were a couple of listeners who actually heard last week's episode after Rahul played against Bangladesh and got the 50 and got this unbelievable run out. And it's amazing how short term our bias and perspective are. At that point, we were like, man, Rahul doesn't belong on this side. It's time. We should bring Pant, all that. DJ, how was Rahul's 50 for those in the crowd? How are you feeling watching him make a 50? And then, of course, arguably getting a run out with a direct hit that changed the course of the game.
We'll come to the direct hit because I think that was a special piece of cricket, particularly after the rain break, and India's pants were literally on fire at that point because they were going to be put out of the World Cup if Bangladesh went on and won that. Um, so this is a difficult question for me. I think the challenge has been Rahul has made up runs. He scored two fifties, right? Consecutive 50s against Bangladesh and Zimbabwe. He's got out soon after his 50s, but in both of those games, we've lost, I'd say, 10% of the overs that we have. I mean, you can't block out or play out. Rahul left the first four balls of the Bangladesh game. He lit. You can't do that. This we saw what Lytton Das did. That's what an attacking opening batsman is meant to do. And it's fine in hindsight. He got 50 off 35. Yes, you can accelerate, but what if you don't? You're not off nine balls or whatever it was. It was, I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm struggling because he's justifying it at the moment. But the amount of pressure it puts on people like Sky, I think, is a game where Sky fails, where Kohli fails, and Rahul and Rohit have got us off to that kind of start. Where are we going to go from there? So I
Is
don't
this
know.
not
I'm
DJ?
struggling.
Is this not kind of an six and a half minutes and I'm bringing him up? But is this not a little bit of the MS Dhoni school of thought, which is like dig your heels in, play now, or is it different later in the game where you're saying just take it deep and then chase? Like,
100%. It's different in the rest of the
okay,
game. You're setting the pace here. You've got the field up here. I mean, you can hit over the top. Well, the Dhoni method, or whoever the finisher is, their method is to make it a one-on-one contest, which is what Kohli did against Pakistan, right? It became a contest between him, and it was one person would hold their nerve in that contest. In that case, Nawaz cracked under the pressure, Rauf cracked under the pressure, we won. But you're not setting the pace, and we saw what a opener who went after the bowling did in that very game. Liton Das, 66 of 7 over 60 of 6 overs, right? How big a difference did that make to the equation?
yeah.
And
So
we know
let's
they have the
just yeah.
capability to go from ball one, which it puts the amount of pressure it puts on a Kohli, a Sky is immense, and they're managing at the moment. And I have to say, I was lucky to watch three games, each of which in Kohli scored a 50. Surya got a 30 in this game, and he got a 50 in the Netherlands game. It was brilliant. So the middle order is firing, but the top order needs to fire, and it
Man,
isn't.
maybe I'm at the point now where if you score three Kohli 50s, that means it was probably you. You were probably the good luck charm, which means if we lose the semis or he doesn't make a 50, I'm going to blame
So
you. Everybody
are
on
we
this show
starting
is officially going to
a
blame you.
crowdfunding campaign to send me back to
Uh,
Australia?
you know what? Maybe I'll come with you this time for the semi. Actually, I don't know if even if I leave now, I don't know if I would make it in time. Just how far, given
Thursday.
how.
It's a Thursday,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I live in small town America. By the time I even get to an airport that can fly me there, but that's a different discussion. Let's talk about this Bangladesh chase. So you come out knowing you're chasing what 185 or so, 185, and there is some rain around. It didn't really look for those of us watching on TV. It didn't really look, at least, like there was going to be for sure a rain disruption. And yet, Litton Das came out batting, obviously, as you think an opener should, as T20, as like it was kind of the England school of thought, just go big from ball one. But it almost also looked like the Bangladeshis knew there was rain in the air. So he gets a 21 ball half century, takes Shami for runs, takes Bhuvi for some runs, take Arshdeep for 12 in his first over. Just some magnificent clean hitting. And the fact that his partner was batting at like a strike rate of 35 or 40 or something at the time made the total did not seem as good. But still, rain comes in, 7 overs, Bangladesh 66 for 0. And then we realize that is 17 runs ahead of the power score. So India fans everywhere are panicking. Bangladesh fans are excited. Pakistan fans, of all people, needed this match to help their situation. So they were very excited about India potentially dropping points. And then DJ, walk me through the vibe at the ground. I'll tell you what the vibe was on TV. It looked like this is a loaded question. It looked like there was, the rain had eased up, but it was still light rain. I am coming off of the context of South Africa versus Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe were in a good position and decided that didn't feel like going back on because the rain was on the ground and it felt unsafe conditions. South Africa obviously wanted to go back on. In this case, India obviously would have wanted to go back on to give ourselves more of a shot. But rain is very difficult for the fielding side. It disproportionately hurts the fielding side. So just walk me through what the vibe was, because obviously there are a lot of people transparently who believe India would have pushed to go back on. The umpires made a decision to go back on before it was safe. Litton Das looked like he slipped in his first couple balls back. So how? What was going on?
So at the ground, I'll tell you the vibe was obviously there was one corner which was full of Bangladeshi fans. They were ecstatic when the rain came because the rain
Yeah,
wasn't expected. It was
yeah,
completely, even when the rain was falling, you look at the weather app, it said no precipitation for the next 4 hours. So it was like kind of a freak rain shower that came from nowhere. It was sunny earlier in the day. If you watched the
interesting.
Zimbabwe Netherlands game, it was sunny during that day. It got colder during the night, but the rain just came and it was windy. That was a good bit because there was a lot of wind. So when you saw the rain, it was
Okay.
like kind of going around in waves. The vibe was pretty dire, I have to say, from Indian fans because every moment I think spent in the ground feels like 10 minutes on 10 minutes basically like oh how many overs have we lost? We eventually only lost 4 overs, but we spent I think 40 minutes off the field. It felt like it was like 5 hours because everyone was stressed. India was going to get knocked out. It was going to be rain. We were already thinking, oh my God, England have already lost a game to Ireland. Luckily, this was the second game in the day. This is the other important bit. England Ireland was the first game of the day. And so they had to call it to get the second game of the day underway, whereas that pressure wasn't on for the Bangladesh India game. Of course, you saw Shakib gesticulating. Litton Das slipped the first ball. He came back on. I mean, to be honest, like the umpires would not let the players back on there if it was not safe. And the fielders, the fielding side did not slip even once after it came back on. So a great advert for their spike makers. But I mean, I think that break gave the Indian team a breather because they were under an assault. Like Litton had just taken to the bowlers. We didn't know what had hit us. I think there was one over that Akshar had bowled, which only went for 6 runs. But it gave us a chance to reassess and say, oh my God, India might be out of the World Cup if we don't do something soon. And the entire team seemed to just lift itself absolutely magnificently after that. The crowd got behind them. I'll let you talk about the KL Rahul run out because I was messaging you guys and I couldn't see. I thought it was Kohli because, frankly, a lot of these guys look
Mm.
pretty similar from the
With the
distance.
beards. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, really quickly, second ball after the rain delay. And again, rain delays, obviously there's the fact that the ground may be wet, but it's also just a delay, right? Litton was in unbelievable form. Any sort, we've seen this a million times in cricket, right? Drinks breaks or any sort of a break in your momentum can change the energy. And so Shanto, his partner, was on strike. They hit the ball to KL Rahul in the deep, by the way, and they run one, and Shanto wants the second. Litton didn't really call for the second, but as he's turning, for some reason he ran the first on the pitch, and the second one sort of on the grass, or like turned on the grass to run back on the grass, and I don't think he actually tripped, but he did lose his footing for a split second, and KL Rahul fires it in from the deep, direct hit on the stumps. Leighton Das is losing his mind, screaming at or basically like upset at his partner, upset at the umpires for being back on. And anyway, gets out for a magnificent 60 off of 27 balls. Full credit to him. And still, it looked like at that point, Bangladesh was ahead of the DLS scores. But for those of you who know how Duckworth Lewis works, a wicket changes the required target at that point, right? And so at that point, just the loss of the wicket. 6 or 7 balls later, Shami gets his partner Shanto out. And ultimately, after that, I won't go through it all. The collapse kind of started. Arshdeep picked up an over with 2 wickets in it. Hardik then came on, picked up an over with 2 wickets in it. And yeah, at the end of it, we'll come down to that last over. So DJ, 20 runs needed off 6 balls, right? There's a 16 over, it's in a 16 over format.
One
I was
bowler
going to
can bowl
say
four.
one bowler can bowl four, right?
Yes.
So 5 times 3 and 1. Yes, math is hard. And Shami had an over, and Shami has all the experience. And Rohit Sharma gives the ball to Arshdeep Singh. What were you guys thinking then? Did you feel like it was the right call?
100%.
Okay.
Arshdeep was magnificent. He is our death bowler, man. And um, he, I think Shami had bowled three, Bhuvi had bowled three up front. Ashwin was going for runs, so he wasn't going to come back. Hardik had bowled his three, so it had to be Arshdeep, and we left him 20 to defend, which was enough in the end, but it was mighty close. And you missed one controversial moment in that game, fake fielding.
Oh yeah, I chose not to talk about that, I guess. Yeah, did you notice that in the crowd? I didn't notice it when it
Yeah,
happened.
yeah. We
Interesting.
saw it when it happened.
Interesting. Okay.
And we saw the umpire, sorry, the non-striker, whoever it was, I don't know who it was, asked the umpire
Oh, they
about
did.
that
Okay.
immediately. It was
Okay.
on the field that they asked for it. And the umpire just kind of shrugged and the game went on. I was like, that looks like fake fielding to me. And um, I I don't know what the text of the law says, whether the batsmen have to be deceived or whether there just has to be an intention to deceive. But Kohli was clearly trying one there. And earlier on in the day, Kohli had effectively signaled a no ball for the extra number of bouncers in the over.
Yeah, so that
So,
combination, right, of Kohli asking for the no ball, second match in a row, the fake fielding, and the speed with which they came back on to play after the rain delay,
yeah.
left Bangladeshi fans reeling a little bit, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean Kohli would have taken that if he'd been given the 5 runs. I don't think it would have changed the result because I mean you can't then say we lost by 5 runs. We would have got 5 penalty runs then because the dynamic would have been different. People would have made different decisions based on how many runs were left to get. Um, but I don't think Kohli would have complained if he was fined 5 runs for that.
Wow,
It
interesting.
was a really silly thing to do, and it was a brain fade from Kohli, to my mind. I don't know.
Very, very interesting. Anyway, Arshdeep finishes it strong. Manages to get the team over the line and get those 2 points that ended up being critical for India to seal the top spot in the group. DJ, we're going to take a quick break. We will come back, talk about some of the remaining matches and the final day of group play, which saw plenty of surprises, including, of course, South Africa falling short yet again. If you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. This is how we get more of you to come back, and we come back every week. But we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. DJ, after the high of Bangladesh, of course, then following that, Pakistan had to play South Africa. Again, very interesting group dynamic. This was probably the group where we thought all three teams were alive. It turned out all four, including Bangladesh, were still alive till the last day. I'm not going to go through all the details, but Pakistan got it to 185, which is actually phenomenal when you see that Rizwan and Babar failed again and Masood failed again. This random young kid, not random, but unknown to me at least, Mohammad Haris comes on, hits 3 6s and 2 4s, and just goes absolutely berserk early on.
Is he the brother of Sohail Harris
Man,
or
okay,
Chris Harris?
Chris Harris, definitely Chris Harris's brother. Anyway, Anrik Nokia picks up 4 wickets, but then South Africa absolutely just fall apart. Absolutely fall apart, making 108 for 9. Phenomenal bowling from the Pakistanis. Shaheen Afridi
Yeah,
finding his form again, right?
so
Picked up
good.
3 wickets that day, picked up 4 today at the time of recording this against Bangladesh. And so Pakistan keeps their hopes alive, right? Again, it was after they lost to India. I think they lost their first two, right? They lost to India and then Zimbabwe
Yeah,
back to
Zimbabwe and
back.
India.
Yeah,
And
when they
last
lost to
ball there.
Zimbabwe back to back, it looked like they were ready to get on a plane home. And this becomes relevant again soon. Then, kind of par for the course, New Zealand wins their game against Ireland, Australia wins their game against Afghanistan, and then England wins their game against Sri Lanka. All required results for all expected results and required to keep each team alive. But Australia beat Afghanistan by just 4 runs. And Afghanistan could have potentially done it. Some last minute heroics by Rashid. I don't know if you got a chance to watch that. Unbelievable six hitting from Rashid Khan. It was always a little too much left for him to do, but Australia ended up winning by 4, which means
But what, by 4 runs?
4 runs, just 4 runs. Rashid Khan had
Oh
a chance. He
wow,
was,
because they were like 109 for 6 when
oh
I got on my
yeah,
flight.
oh yeah.
And I was
Rashid
like,
Khan
there's no
needed,
chance they're making
he got it
this.
down to,
Because they needed 160 odd, right?
yeah, yeah. They needed, sorry, I got to
Wow.
double check while we pull it up. But Rashid batted just unbelievable. They needed 169 and they got to 164,
Oh,
including Rashid
wow.
making 48 off 23. Like
So
that.
one of the highlights of my trip was watching Rashid Khan practice in the nets. We put
Yeah,
him
that was a great
like the
video.
live
If you
video of
haven't
it.
seen it, you should. Yeah.
Yeah, and he hits a helicopter and he goes, "Ek MS Dhoni ka bhi banta hai na." And at the end of it, he goes, "Free में watching," which is just.
So good.
He's
So
such a
good.
cool guy, man. Such a
Amazing,
cool
and
guy.
great to see him watch like how much he works on his batting too, right? It's one of
Yeah,
maybe the best T20 bowler
and
in
the
the world still.
sound of the bat, man. Wow,
Incredible.
cracking, cracking.
Right. So England then goes on to beat Sri Lanka, and they beat Sri Lanka by 4 wickets, and which officially mean the hosts. And I think your pick for finalists, and maybe my pick for finalists too, I don't remember, have been knocked out of the tournament. Australia get knocked out because they're unable to beat
So,
Afghanistan with the right margin.
so I didn't actually pick Australia. I think Varun picked Australia. I think a preview I did with another channel. I picked New Zealand because they just seemed to
Oh, so you
make
did
it to
pick
the
New Zealand,
semis
man.
randomly.
You always call this anyway.
And then Australia, I said, are not a good T20 team there, so they won't make it. And then India and Pakistan. But admittedly, I made those choices like a long time ago. So I somehow managed to. It's cricket for us is the channel where I did that preview with Asjad. So have a
Got
look
it.
at that.
Cool. So that settled that group two, right? You have New Zealand topping the group, and you have England qualifying in second. Sri Lanka fell short. Obviously, weren't able to look good. Afghanistan, unfortunately, a very disappointing tournament for them, and Australia finished in third. DJ, pretty interesting, and I'm going to finish this episode when we're talking about the last day of cricket. But very interesting that Australia actually had 7 points, but are third place because of net run rate. And in our group, Pakistan has 6 points, but are second place and are qualifying. Is there an argument to be made for the structure of the two group format, or is that you or does it come down to the fact that Australia knew what they needed and just still just couldn't do it?
I think the two group format has to stay. I think it gives it a nice dynamic as well because I think one of the groups was also affected more by rain, which probably led to the split points, right? Like I don't know which of was it Afghanistan probably.
Mm-hmm.
No, Australia Afghanistan happened. Australia dropped points against somebody because of the England. So that they
Well, yeah,
split
Australia
points
England
with
didn't
England.
happen, and then Afghanistan had 2 matches washed out.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, South Africa
So
obviously
so
didn't have it,
arguably
and
if
so.
England had won that, it would have been a neater solution. I think it's
Mhm.
nice to have the two separate groups. I think in larger countries with more stadiums, you can concentrate games across different parts of the group, and then you can bring them together later on. I think it's a good format to be honest. I also like the fact that you play round one, and teams like the Netherlands come through the round and spring these surprises. Ireland actually beat the West Indies and England. What a World Cup they had. I actually saw them at the
Unbelievable.
airport while flying back. The entire team was sitting there just having dinner. So I got a
That's
picture with Paul
awesome.
Sterling.
Oh, that's
It's been
awesome.
a
That's
trip, man. It's been a
You
really
seem
good
like you've
trip.
had a great experience. I'm sad that I
Yeah.
missed it, but also excited that 2024 is in my part of the world. So
Oh,
maybe you'll
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah.
come this way instead and we make a trip out of it.
We're
But
booking already.
love it. Let's talk about the final day of cricket. So the first triple header, because they wanted all three group games, assuming to be on the same day. South Africa versus Netherlands. Here's the equation, right? South Africa needed to beat the Netherlands to basically assure to mathematically assure their qualification. And you're thinking South Africa probably backed themselves to do that. They would have ended with 7 points, which then meant the winner of Bangladesh Pakistan would have got to 6, which then meant okay, if India lost to Zimbabwe, uh, yes, if India lost to Zimbabwe, then the winner of Bangladesh Pakistan would have made it through. And if India won, then it would have been India and South Africa. So you're sitting there with Bangladesh Pakistan, assuming South Africa would win, pretty honestly, and then hoping that Zimbabwe can pull off a miracle against Team India. And the first game of the day, unbelievable, unexpected result. The Netherlands, who I don't think have lost to South Africa before in a T20, end up coming and picking up an incredible 2 points. And what does that do? And we'll talk about the game quickly, but what does that do for the group dynamic? Netherlands win means India qualifies. Position still
Yeah.
TBD, but India qualifies. And it means mathematically, unless there was rain, Bangladesh Pakistan becomes a quarterfinal. So the winner of the team goes through. The winner of that match goes through. The loser is out. And you're sitting there. And what that means then for India is a win over Zimbabwe means we top the group. A loss to Zimbabwe means we come second. But that qualification was certain. And we're getting some fun comments where Shaunak is asking, what did the Dutch just pull off? And then you're seeing Sumit, especially, which is really interesting, say how happy was Rahul to see South Africa lose more than anybody. We're thinking of Bangladesh and Pakistan. But the fact that there's no pressure against Zimbabwe because we had already qualified may have changed the equation. So, DJ,
But
very
even
quickly.
Babar didn't score against Zimbabwe this time, so I mean,
Yeah, I know. I
tough.
picked him. I captained him against Zimbabwe just because of the history.
Zimbabwe Azam.
Zimbabwe. Anyway, DJ, the Netherlands made 158, which is much better than I would have expected, transparently, against the South African bowling lineup. I do think the bowlers let them down a little. Rabada has been a little bit of a disappointment this tournament. Nokia was unbelievably economical, but couldn't pick up more wickets. 4 overs, 1 for 10. But made 158. Kudos to Ackerman for his 41, Tom Cooper for 35. All of the top order basically looked pretty good. And then in the chase, right, I want to talk about a couple things, right? So chasing 159, the South Africa batsmen come out, have a hard time getting bad on ball. The pitch is a little bit too paced, which makes you then appreciate how many runs the Netherlands got. But let's specifically talk about a shot, which I'm guessing you saw, but David Miller. David Miller has
Oh
been
man.
the key to South Africa in many, many chases like this, even for his IPL franchise. And
Even against India.
even
He
against
was
India
there at
this
the
earlier
end.
this tournament. Yeah, he's the key that
Yeah.
comes in late middle order
Nailing
in a
it.
tough situation, consolidates, and then hits big at the end. There is a player who has previously played for South Africa, national side, who is now playing for the Dutch, which is only in our sport you see stories like this all the time. But I'm of course talking about I never pronounce his name correctly, but Roelof van der Merwe, who did you see the catch? Have you seen the clips of it?
Oh yeah, it was incredible. I think he left South Africa to become a Gold Pack player and play county cricket, and then he's got some Dutch connection, so he plays for them, and he played in the last World Cup for them as well. But that was a catch which, I mean, we've seen some great catching this tournament. We saw Glenn Phillips's catch. We saw Kohli's catch today. We saw Ryan Burls catching today as well. So we had a really good catching day today, as well as the entire tournament has been brilliant, really. I mean, Babar's catch at slip, fantastic. But that was the game in the air.
You
It
think
was, I
about
just watched 83. So, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, you say that catch was the game because you dismissed David Miller. It was the game. It was the end of South Africa's World Cup run, which looked, for all intents and purposes, like they were ready for a semi-final spot. And it was securing of Netherlands' spot in the 2024 World Cup, which may not be a big deal to India, England, Australia, but it is a huge deal to the Netherlands to
Yeah.
have a spot already confirmed for 2024. So, sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, so the direct qualification happened after Pakistan beat Bangladesh and India beat Zimbabwe. So that's when it got confirmed. But yes, it gave them a shot of that. But I was just watching 83 on the plane ride back, right? And I hadn't managed to watch it because I don't know, it was like I thought I knew the story and stuff. But it's quite a good film. I quite enjoyed the film as a movie, and I think they've done a pretty good job with the cricket bit as well. But the part where Kapil Dev is running backwards, right? I think this catch was a better catch in terms of pure catching ability because the ball has swung and swerved, and you can see he's caught it so low. It was just an absolutely magnificent piece of fielding by the oldest player on the field as well. And it was David Miller, it was South Africa looking to tee off. I mean, the context was brilliant. It was just, I mean, the Dutch have um, they've won a lot of hearts today. I think they've got a lot of fans in Pakistan as well today. And for a while, they would have had Bangladeshi fans as well. So well done to those guys, right? And yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant piece of cricket and holding their nerve to close it out as well. Because remember, they haven't done much of it. They haven't won a lot. And to win against a top flight nation like South Africa is
yeah. I mean,
congratulations to them.
there is plenty of great cricket that happens across the years, but it's this kind of moment that makes World Cup special, right?
Yeah.
The small teams
And
like
this
this.
is exactly the argument for like having a bigger World Cup, not a smaller World Cup, not go towards like having 10 teams. You need to have, At least the T20 is where you
I
need
was
to
going to
have
say,
that
only
because
I agree with that in this format. I think ODIs can be painful when you have teams that are
it's
so far apart. But yeah,
yeah, brilliant. Look at the upsets you've had. Scotland, Ireland. You've England have Scotland, West Indies. Sorry, England have been beaten by Ireland. The Netherlands have just beaten South Africa. Pakistan were beaten by Zimbabwe.
just
I
amazing.
mean, it's open, and if I don't know, Pakistan go ahead and win this World Cup, they'll have the Netherlands to thank because they were going
It's
home. They booked their
incredible.
tickets. They were just about to press pay now on their booking.
Unbelievable. So, like I said, South Africa gets knocked out. The next match of the day, Pakistan Bangladesh, becomes a virtual quarterfinal. I won't talk about it too much. Pretty lackluster batting performance from Bangladesh. Again, same pitch, right? So it shows you just how well the Dutch batted to get to 150 plus, because 127 from Bangladesh looked at one point looked like they were going to do well, and then just kind of the collapse started. Shaheen picked up four. Again, watching him post injury rise back to his best makes me very nervous for the semis and finals. But a good match. You finally saw the opener score a little bit, but still you'd argue against Bangladesh. Rizwan 32 at a run ball, Babar 25 at well below a run ball. Came down to that young guy, Muhammad Haris again. And I honestly have just assumed he's young because I hadn't seen him around. I should check what his age is. He's
And
21,
Shan as
so
well.
I'm right.
Shan had a nice
And
innings,
Shan
24 or
finished it
14, right?
strong and
Decent.
won the and so Pakistan wins the game with 11 balls to spare and seals their semi-final spot. And so now they're waiting to see what happens between India and Zimbabwe to see where they finish. Do they finish top of the group, or do they finish? Because I believe it's actually, I'm not sure. Maybe they couldn't top the group. I think it is head to head, and India had beaten Pakistan.
They would have topped the
No,
group
they would have topped the group. Sorry, if we lost, we
if
would
we
have had six
lost,
points
right?
and
Yeah,
qualified.
yeah.
But their net run rate presumably would have been better.
But
So
but
then
at that
India's
point we didn't really care, man. Like were they playing New Zealand in the semis or England in the semis?
I don't think
It's much of a
India
muchness to be totally
I
honest.
don't think India wants to play New Zealand in any semis anytime soon. But let's
Yeah,
quickly talk through
fair.
this India Zimbabwe match. I mean, it was an excellent batting performance at the end of it, and a good bowling performance to back it up. But yeah, Rahul makes another 50 just at about 145. So I think he made 50 of 32 the last game, 51 of 35 here. And then DJ, I know you have some never-ending superlatives for Surya Kumar Yadav, but some of the images that are circulating of some of the sixes he hit over deep backward square from like 6 feet outside the off stump, just unbelievable, right?
It's you run out of words sometimes. I mean, it's creative, it's daring, it's bold, it's magnificent because it's been practiced. It's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. When you've got AB de Villiers saying you're doing pretty well, buddy, you're getting there. You're doing something right, and I mean, he's come up the hard way. They were talking on air about how he used to be a finisher for KKR playing 15
Mm-hmm.
balls. So he's got that. Then he became a top order batter for the MI and he's got that. And of course, he's played Ranji Trophy cricket. Ravi Shastri on air said he can play Test cricket for India as well. This guy's got the game to play Test cricket as well. And he's in the form of his life. I mean, we've seen Kohli at his peak, right? But Surya is just playing, and I think I've said this before in the context of Kohli, like Surya is like he's like the school captain playing a house match, if that makes sense. Right? He's just having fun. He's hitting the ball where he likes it. He's 1 second quicker than everybody else in reading the line and the length, and he's just putting it wherever he wants where there are no fielders. And it is absurd. And it's high risk, it's high reward, it's exhilarating. I mean, what he did against South Africa, incredible. No one else could lay a bat on it. And this guy is just ramping, scooping, smashing it straight. He's literally 360, and it's brilliant to see that the IPL has thrown out a product like this in front of our eyes, right? We've seen him come up in front of our eyes. We remember when he was not in the team. You remember the time where he had a showdown with Kohli,
I
RCB
mean,
MI,
yeah,
and he said Mehuna after he finished that game, right? And
incredible. I
he's
mean,
gone
that it's
from
hard
that
to
to
think
this.
back. It is very hard to think back to the days where Surya Kumar Yadav did not make it into the Indian playing 11. Like it seems ridiculous to think about it. DJ, we're a
Can,
little
can
bit
I
over our yeah. Go ahead.
can I just ask you a question about Rohit?
Yeah,
89 runs in the tournament so far. What's going on? and he's getting out the same way on those big grounds. He's pulling down to deep square leg. I mean, it works on an SCG or an Adelaide where the ground is smaller, right? MCG, you know how he's going to get out. So what's going
Yeah,
on?
it's interesting. Varun and I talked about it at length last week, and some of what we talked was the context of both openers. And I was, as a little transparently, like I do think a little bit of Rahul's very slow starts and his inability to get away was putting pressure on Rohit. And then you sit here and say, yeah, Rahul's then made 250s since, and Rohit has still failed both those matches. So obviously, unfortunate to see him going through a lean patch. I think the thing with Rohit is he's the kind of player who it's like Babar and Rizwan, right? Like they've done well enough over the course of their career as openers that you continue to back them. And when they come good, he will come good. I'm hopeful it happens in the semis and the final. He just looks like he's not seeing the ball as well. And we've always said he's one of India's best pullers of the ball, but maybe he's the short ball is starting to undo him a little on the big grounds. So it's disappointing. I mean, he's our captain. I don't like Varun and I didn't talk about it too much because it wasn't a should we drop him question. It's just not right. Like he's our
Yeah.
captain. He's one of it. We've said on this show before. He's maybe before Sky at least. He's one of India's biggest six hitters, and it's disappointing. But you just have to back him to come good. And if not, and if he doesn't in the next two games, then you start thinking about okay, what does it mean for his captaincy and his role in the T20 side?
I'll give you one more stat. Only
Hmm.
one team has ever won the World T20 where the captain scored a 50 in the tournament. Pakistan in 2009. All other captains haven't scored a 50 in
Wow.
games in tournaments that their teams have won.
I'm now trying to think about it. Among the four
Aaron
semifinals,
Finch.
No, but among this four semifinalists that are left, Babar hasn't scored one yet.
Okay.
Rohit hasn't scored one. I'm pretty sure Kane
Kane.
didn't. Kane made 40 something, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And Butler did. So, all right, that's England's hopes out
Okay
the window.
then. Righty. Righty-o.
Let's two other quick things before we were a little over. Rishabh Pant, disappointing because he got out to a great catch, but yeah, what are your thoughts? He got an opportunity, made 3 runs. Is that it? Are we going to like go back to DK for the semi, or what do you do from a selection standpoint?
Uh, I don't know. I think we should stick with punt, man. DK dropped that catch again of Litton in that game.
I was
There
going to
was
say, how
another.
much do you factor in the fact that Rishabh is a much better
How,
keeper of spin?
how weird is that? And we're saying that Rishabh is a better keeper than
He's
DK.
he's gotten much better. Rishabh was not a great
Yeah,
keeper 2 or 3 years
he
ago.
kept
He's
well
improved.
today as well.
Yeah,
Kept well
yeah.
today as well. So I think the left hand, they're both at par at the moment. If you ask my honest opinion, we haven't needed that finishing kick. I mean, when we needed that finishing kick against Pakistan, it didn't really come. We didn't really. Bangladeshi got run out, so that was unlucky. Currently at par, but as Varun said, Rishabh Pant has played this tournament, and it's just they're just gonna flip a coin. I think Pant should have a slight advantage if he because he bats lefty, and it's better for matchups. And today was unlucky, man. It was a nice shot. Ryan Burl took a screamer of a catch, and another day that's 1 foot over that guy's head and six.
Do you factor in that Adelaide was pretty good to the was it like sorry a tough pitch to bowl on? I don't know what the pitch is going to look like for next Thursday, but do you factor in the pitch and the fact that England is our opposition when you're making the choice?
Yeah, you would because England's got Adil Rashid, who's a leg spinner. They've also got Moeen Ali, who I think Rishabh has taken down in the
Hmm.
past, which is clearly good memories. Um, I'd play Rishabh Pant just because he's a guy who can win. I've told you this before. He can win you a game in 15
Yeah,
minutes,
yeah.
literally, which DK could do as well, but it's a different role DK plays. And DK bats further down the order, and he's the 15 ball guy, whereas Pant needs a little bit more time, so he'd probably bat
Yeah,
five below Surya to break up that right hand, right-handed top six.
got it.
But
All right,
Dravid and Rohit will do what they want to do. So who can predict
absolutely.
anything?
Well, just to wrap up Zimbabwe's innings, not a lot to write home about. Bhuvi picks up a great first ball wicket to set the tone for the innings. And yeah, a couple of good heroics from Raza, who's been outstanding for them this tournament, and Ryan Burl hit some six, took Akshar to the cleaners a little bit. But other than that, very clinical bowling performance. Nice to see Ashwin pick up some wickets, Shami and Hardik pick
Yeah.
up a couple each, and India tops the
Yeah.
group.
What about Ash? You been okay with his bowling?
I mean, I sit here and say who have been Hasaranga has been pretty successful. Like you go through and say leggies have done pretty well in this tournament, and we got Chahal bringing our drinks, and so I mean, obviously, I don't think they're going to change it now, but I do think
Now
if
they
we
won't. Yeah.
postmortem this tournament and say did we miss a trick a little bit, and we got a question in the comments just asking about whether our resources are being used, and I think this came in the context of Sky, but like, are we really leveraging Chahal enough? Are we anyway? It's a tough call. It's a problem of plenty that India has with selection, and I think they're going to persist with Ash, and he earned it today by picking up 3 wickets. So
Yeah.
right, DJ, I'm going to wrap this episode up without. We haven't done this yet, but a fantasy league update, and I know you haven't really done it. Either you've been
I
playing really
haven't either.
poorly, or you haven't been playing. Because as I
I
look at the edges and
I
sledges,
think I made my team on day one, and then I flew off on day two, and then I haven't even bothered.
so we have a smaller group playing the Edges and Sledges fan league this time. It's 35 teams are out there. In first place at the end of the group stage, but there's still 3 matches to go, is a team called Desi Pinkman, 9,900 points. So congratulations to them. Number two is Tarun Perfect Team, 9,500. And number three is Snowstalker, 9,431.
Good
Happy
name.
not to have to say names that I couldn't pronounce, but still interesting
But
names.
Desi
I,
Pinkman is a good one actually.
yeah, it's pretty funny.
His other team is Desi Walter White.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, in sixth place is Varun, 9,040 points. And I am
R
less
Varun.
than our Varun in
R
sixth
Varun.
place.
That's
And I am less than 100 points behind him in ninth place
R
at
Ashwin.
8,940. And Arash, exactly.
Sorry, I'm just
Nailed
jet
it.
lagged. I'm just talking
Yeah, you need to
nonsense.
go to bed. This has been fun. But yeah, I mean, congratulations to those in the top three. We do have 3 games left, 2 semis and a final. So it's going to be a fun time.
So who we predicting is winning the whole thing? Because
I'm
Varun's already
saying,
out. Because he said in England, India, Australia final. So obviously
uh,
that's not happening.
yeah, I don't even remember what I predicted. I think I predicted India, England. Anyway, somebody will go back and pull the tapes. But I'm predicting India beats England. Pakistan pulls it through against New Zealand
Oh,
in the big game, and
India,
I'm predicting
Pakistan
India Pakistan.
at the G. Are you kidding
Absolutely.
me?
I mean, that's what the dreams are made of, man. It's gonna be great. What about you? What are you predicting?
Man, if India, Pakistan at the G happens
You might have to
again,
fly back.
it is going to be insane. There'll be people
Yeah,
jumping the walls to get into that
yeah,
ground. It's
yeah.
that, I mean, I hope your prediction comes through. I hope India wins it, man. I
Hmm.
hope for our sake that we get to celebrate an ICC trophy. We've never had one on this
It's
podcast.
truth. We haven't won one since Edges Sledges started. Quickly, DJ, what's your prediction?
I'm going to say India win against England. I think New Zealand will beat Pakistan in their clinical way, reach the final, and then India is going to win
And then India
against
will
New
be
Zealand.
15 for 3 against Trent Bolt and Tim Southey.
No, New Zealand will be 15 for 3 against Arsh because
That's
we've got
correct.
our own weapon.
That's
We've got
right.
our own weapon. That's it.
You heard it here. These are our predictions, folks. Thank you as always for joining us. It is a ton of fun. We always enjoy putting this up. By the time we're back next week, it'll be the end of the T20 World Cup. It feels like we've spent 2 years building up to squad selection, and now we just start thinking about the next ones. Yeah,
Fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. We're ready to see Kohli lift a trophy. I mean, sorry, Rohit lift a trophy, I guess,
But
but
that
yeah,
was the other
but
thing.
both of
One of
them.
the
I know. Sorry,
announcers
yeah.
went, India led by Virat Kohli. It's come out. It's like, dude, that changed a year ago.
He
Anyway,
was led. We
quite
were
funny.
led by Virat Kohli. Right. That brings us to a wrap. As always, at One Tip One Hand on all the social medias. If you're still watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. That's what you're supposed to do, I think. And yeah, help us get some more this out there to some more listeners. And we will be back next week to talk about who won the T20 World Cup. This has been the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast on 99.94 DM. Thank you for joining us.